Good morning, everyone. My name is Nick Beebe, and I am a 24-year veteran of the United States Air Force. Thanks. And I am also a recent graduate of the Bachelor's of Multidisciplinary Studies program at the University of Nebraska, Omaha. And first, I would like to thank Joel for inviting me here today, and then also to Reverend Deborah McKnight for giving me the time to speak to you all this morning. If anyone isn't familiar with who Joel is or some of the things that he does in the community, please give me a moment to tell you about how Joel and I came to know one another. So for the better part of 8 years, Joel's been taking part in a very important tradition for the veteran and military-connected community at UNO. Joel's been dedicating his time to facilitate a weekly group meeting uniquely dubbed Coffee Talks at UNO's UNO's Military Connected Resource Center. I suspect by the reputation Urban Abbey has with its ties to coffee that you guys know that coffee has very mystic capabilities in bringing us socially together, as well as keeping us awake during a service. Absolutely. It works. It truly does work. Some things about the military life that maybe 97% of the population don't know is that in the military, you are forced to form bonds and connect with people from all over the world, people that you don't know, and these people end up being your friends, and then eventually your friends turn into your second family, and you have these small social connections that are with you through life. It's very important, and oftentimes, being in the military, we drink coffee as well. It brings people together. Let's go have a cup of coffee and chat. As I was transitioning out of the military, I enrolled at the University of UNO Omaha, University of Nebraska Omaha, to pursue and finish my college degree. It meant that I didn't have to take classes online where I wasn't connecting with people face to face. It meant that I was able to get that opportunity to connect with my professors, connect with fellow students, and live that college experience, something that I didn't have. I don't know if you guys can tell, but I don't look like the average college students. I just turned 47, and the average age of my fellow classmates is like 20 and 3/4. Yeah, 3/4 is legitimate because they would say, "Oh, I'm about to turn 21." Good for you. I've been there. I've done that. But as I was going through the first few months of my college experience, and assignments were insurmountable, and I wasn't connecting on campus, my anxiety continued to grow. I fell into a little bit of depression because I wasn't living that college experience. And I would often get these emails from the Military Connected Resource Center saying, "Hey, we're having coffee talks on Wednesday morning, come and have some coffee and sit down with some fellow veterans." And initially, I kind of put it off. I put it aside. I said, I don't want to be associated or part of the military community right now because I just left it and I want to experience something new. But it took a while for me to actually take that first step and be invited or invite myself to go into coffee talks. And when I walked in, I was immediately greeted by Joel and some other veteran students, and it was a welcoming environment, and it gave me a sense of that there was a community at the campus that I could connect with, and it was important work, and I didn't realize it initially, and I'm forever grateful that Urban Abbey and Joel provide that space at UNO to provide that community to a veteran student like myself and to other veteran students. I'm going to refer to my notes because I don't want to miss anything. So like I said, I was introduced to a group of students. Some were veterans like myself. Some were children of veterans. Some were active duty. Some were National Guard members. Even UNO faculty members would be present during our coffee talks. So in closing, I would like to express my heartfelt appreciation for Urban Abbey and their generosity, for providing their commitment and support to UNO's military-connected students, and letting us borrow Joel. His compassion, his enthusiasm to keep the group meetings going. Without your support and commitment, I don't know if I would have found the experiences I was seeking. My social cup would have remained empty. Because, in all honesty, I was carrying my coffee cup on campus every day. But a cup of coffee is best when it's shared with people who can be called friends, who will eventually turn into friends that we can call family. So I am now an alumni of UNO, and I have re-entered the workforce, and I haven't been back to coffee talks in a little over a month, and I miss it. Full-time jobs take you away from the things that you love, and it's unfortunate. But now I'm at Metro Community College, and I'm working in their Veterans and Military Resource Center myself. And I would love and appreciate the opportunity to bring coffee talks to our veteran and military community there, because I know it's a service that is truly needed and absolutely necessary. Thank you for your time.
Good morning, all. I am here today. Deborah asked me to speak a little bit about what the Urban Abbey means to me, and I was kind of joking with Mike Ramsey in between services. I did not ask ChatGPT what I should say. I actually have ideas on my own about Abbey because I do think about it quite a bit. In kind of earlier in life, myself and some others were a part of a place kind of like the Urban Abbey, and we made it like 4 or 5 years. And I'm just saying, the Urban Abbey making it 13 years is amazing. Congratulations. I think there's a lot of strategy and organization and leadership by Deborah that really is unique. And so thank you for that, for Deborah. Also, it's 13th year. I feel like a few weeks ago I wasn't at the service, but Taylor Swift was here. And so if this would have been like a Taylor Fest, we would have a 13 or something on our hand. We missed that opportunity. Come on. Anyway, I always, when our family came to the Abbey the very first time, I just remember early on in the service, Deborah asked everyone to sort of think about kind of where they're sitting, the sun kind of warming in the room, placing your feet on the ground, like thinking about your shoulders, relaxing them, and that was so different because it was acknowledging that we were people with kind of feelings and we were bringing our life here. We weren't just concerned about our soul and something kind of spiritual out there. It was very real and tangible, and that that's unique and acknowledges that we bring all of ourselves to spaces like the Abbey. There are some out there that think that the Urban Abbey doesn't take spiritual things seriously. So to kind of combat that, I'm going to read 2 Bible verses today. Not even from a Bible. Yeah, that's right. Yes. To be fair, I did copy and paste these from a Google search. I did not open up a Bible and read the footnotes and like parse out the translation. Sorry if that's what you need. You won't find it here, at least from me. But just too, they sort of acknowledge that there's this pairing of sort of faith and action. So the first is from James chapter 2. What good is it, my brothers and sisters, if someone claims to have faith but does not have works? Surely that faith cannot save, can it? If a brother or sister is naked and lacks daily food, and one of you says to them, go in peace, warm and eat your fill, and yet do not supply their bodily needs, what is the good of that? So faith by itself, if it has no works, is dead. Another passage from the Gospel of Matthew. Teacher, what is the greatest commandment in the law? Jesus replied, love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, and with all your mind. This is the first and greatest commandment. The second is like it, love your neighbor as yourself. So the Abbey has the values are coffee, cause, communion, and I think we want to live that out every day. Think about during the communion time, Deborah always says they're one in ministry to God, with each other, and to all the world, and sort of points out. And I think that's really cool that we're a part of a community that thinks about things like, what does the budget of the city of Omaha have to say about things we care for? How do we think about our neighbors that are immigrants or refugees, and what does it mean for them to have a full and life here in Omaha, or sort of think about policy and justice issues down at the state legislature. So that's a way of sort of that faith in action. And then also through like more of the contemplative side, through the rule of life or small groups or queer faith on campus. There are things that we're doing every day to sort of build up another part of our faith. And we also kind of use our hands and can be very tangible with people, like through the nature and spirituality hikes with Joel. As I said, I wasn't able to be there yesterday, but I don't know that it needs more endorsement. We always endorse nature and hiking here at the Abbey. So please, if you weren't there, talk to Joel and some others that were there yesterday and try to be a part of that next time. But we also do silly things like, they're not silly, mac and cheese bake-offs. They caring about places like Liberty Elementary School. The Nebraska Extension Office has been here before through with insects and bunnies, just very kind of practical things we want to do. There's crafting, the braiding sweetgrass. There's just so many items. It's just a few that I can remember since we've been here. But the point is that the Abbey and trying to understand faith is not something that's esoteric or kind of in theory. It is very practical and tangible ways of making it real. And we're always growing and evolving to meet the needs. So that sometimes might look like advocating for and using the Paycheck Protection Program so that people can stay employed here at the Abbey, and then extending that and advocating for paid sick leave. It can redefine and evolve our community programming and our space. This, as we see today, there's quite a few of you here. The fire marshal's not here, so that's good. So we might need to think about space differently too in the future, and we're open to that. I've been a part of the Urban Abbey board for a couple of years, and trying with a lot of other very good and dedicated people, just trying to be a good steward and of leadership in the past, and listening and thinking about what the future looks like and how to facilitate that faith and action. And ultimately, I think in our family, I think the idea of faith and church what it meant for us growing up and what our kids have today, it might look very different. And sometimes I'd say our kids are just bored of church. I was bored of church as a kid sometimes, but also just maybe not interested in it. And in some churches, that would be, we would be judged as parents. Our kids would be judged. I'd probably be kicked off the leadership team probably, but here, I guess the point is that the idea of certainty is, not interesting. It's really leaning into the curiosities, not making an idol of certainty is important, and also just protecting us against idol worship, which we have a problem with that in the United States. And I think we can fight against idolatry here, and so. This last week, you've probably received a lot of emails or you've heard on podcasts, now more than ever, be investing in communities that are standing up for the rights of others, and the Urban Abbey is no different. It's very localized options. So I'd really urge you to think about what that means to invest in this space with your time and resources and talents, because we need all of you to be a part of this with us. Because at 13, things get kind of weird, right? When you turn 13. So please, bring that with us. Yeah. So thank you so much for your investment in sustaining the Abbey for 13 years, and look forward to many more. Thank you.
I had 5 different sermons that I thought about and explored this week. And the earlier service suggested I not give all of them to you, which, to be honest, was never my plan. But in a world that feels so raucous and divided and different than I hoped for us or for our kids, I want to dive into one thing that we can be rooted in, which is each other, which is this work. And every year on our 13th birthday, we prepare for the next year. And some of you met with me before, and some of you received a mailer. And if I missed you, I'm sorry. There are pledge cards at your table. This is a real part of church because things cost money. And until we figure out how to turn water into wine and open up that winery, or water into coffee even, I mean, without the use of beans and purchasing things. So just kidding. That would be real mystical coffee. If you are a guest visiting with us, I am not asking you to participate in this work of pledging. This is a work of intention, a work of long time thought and intention about what it means to invest in this community, what it means to you to participate and to take responsibility for how we are in community together. There have been birthdays where we have celebrated because I didn't know if we would make it. There have been birthdays that we have celebrated, and I still didn't know if we should sign our next lease. There have been years when my friendly accountant at home may not like this story because the accounting didn't work out how it was expected. But in 2014, Mike was looking at all of our finances with the spreadsheets and all of the mystical spreadsheetness that can happen when you're an accountant, which is not a gift of the clergy. I did not take one class about spreadsheets. I like to use it on numbers, which I know is like an abomination to people who use Excel. So that'll be my only use of the word abomination today. But the predictions looked bad, like real bad. Like we would close and we'd be lucky if we lasted one more year. And so we made these hard choices to do something in an entirely different way, to launch out of the system that we were in and to try with our whole hearts to be here. And in that first year, our giving doubled, and in the next year, our giving doubled again. And it's not like there was one person who said, oh, I love this little coffee shop, bookstore, church. I'm going to, float it. No, we were the Bernie Sanders campaign of churches. And that campaign was going on. The average gift was $27 because the Methodist Church, in all of its methodicalness, has this system that you import all the data each week. And it is these many gifts that add up into something new. And there have been really bumpy spots. And every year, we have made it in the black. I know that's not a huge goal, but it felt pretty big. We have grown in slow, steady, sustainable ways in a world that doesn't value slow or steady or sustainable. We have grown in small and steady and sustainable ways in a church structure that doesn't value that for new church development. Most new church development happens in a suburb, in a gym, a cafeteria, with this aim to have 600 people almost immediately. And every pastor there, I tell you, because I went to all the meetings, is a cute white guy who plays guitar and has a piercing or a tattoo, but never both because that'd be too much. And I was in New Church Start Pastor Purgatory for long enough that I saw the styles change. And we did this work enough that no matter all of the systems that didn't really expect us, or that we had to work in and around and against even, we found a way. And then things seemed sort of normal for a minute. And then the things that got weird became more like threats, external threats. And the pandemic happened, and I was like, oh, thank God we're in this small space. And the pandemic ended, and it didn't seem like anybody was really going to come back, and we were going to be in this space for the rest of our lives, and that was going to be fine. And then we had the bomb threats happen on Saturday and then again on Sunday, and we went outside, and Chuck was here, and we sang, and we had communion no matter what. And I thought, would anybody really come back to this church? Would anybody really come knowing full well the risk of being here? And you came. And we have to begin imagining what our space might look like and how it might grow and how we might evolve and what we can do in the world and how that feels. To do more or differently. And before there's any worry or any anxiety, this work is always us taking us wherever it might be. We would never leave the coffee shop behind. So don't worry, that mystical coffee goes with us. And the most important part about an abbey isn't really the bricks or mortar, but the people. And how we interact and how we do this work. And in these last days, we've even had threats from people who are planning a protest for a drag story hour that wasn't even on the calendar. They're just sure it was happening. Just sure. And I was like, Doug, in La Vista, it's not. But sure, bring 30 or 40 men down. Please just get coffee first. And we've received some interesting press, if you will, from some kind of weird website called Imposters, like pastors, but imposters. And they really loved my Jezebel sermon, by the way. So much, like a lot. And so, like, the hard spaces aren't over. But the gift is we don't have to do them alone. And this last week or so, I was at a Methodist clergy convention, and most of the time I don't want to go, and most of the time, just to be honest. And a lot of times I just do other work on my computer during the talking. But we had a leader from a general board of something or other. Like, there's so many general boards in the Methodist Church, which is another point that I will make another day. But there was Methodist history I didn't know about. Like, they love talking about Wesley and his work against slavery. They love talking about Wesley and his work around women and their voices, and this work around elevating folks in poverty and changing systems and the status quo. But there wasn't so much clarity about how much Methodists were hated. This is an actual piece of propaganda, anti-Methodist propaganda from 1740. I'm just going to read it to you. Don't be deceived. These Methodists use religion as a cloak to cover sexual license. Great numbers of persons of both sex gather frequently. They assemble in meeting places at very unreasonable hours. They engage in love feasts, which is a way of having communion when you're not ordained, and holy kisses and strange trances. They secretly practice witchcraft. So my Glenda costume was spot on. They secretly practice witchcraft so they can steal wives from their husbands and daughters from their fathers, because it is a liberative community. They make people go mad by their cunning arts. The money they collect does not go to the poor, but to line their pockets and to make them rich. These heretics, these fanatics, these enthusiasts are out to destroy the church and to bring down the king. Don't let them speak. Don't let them corrupt you. The Methodists were being labeled this because people were feeling happy. Like, they were feeling joy, And it was so weird in the 1700s for anyone to feel joy about their faith and their life. The Methodists were a problem. They were being called witches because people were being told that they are loved and that they are worthy and that they are valued. And so they made up songs and they sung songs, and they were known for singing songs and collecting money for the poor all the time. They're the worst. They went to jail. There were riots that destroyed their meeting houses, and the Methodists were actually blamed for it and sent to prison. They faced all kinds of pressure from the church and the state. And the first time the word Methodist is actually used in print, which is also an insult, like John Wesley apparently was really hoping to change the brand to the United Societies, but that did not catch on. And so in 1740, they're in Bristol, England, and Bristol is like this seaport town. It's the heart of this booming industrial revolution, with all the worst that might bring, all the worst that might mean, all the ways that sucks the life out of people and out of community and disrupts the well-being. And so Wesley and his friends from Oxford are there, and they start doing prison ministry. And this is someone who sort of writes an op-ed into the newspaper condemning the Methodists. And this is the first time the word Methodist is used. But it was not in a single history book in my seminary. Wesley and his Oxford friends' eccentricities might be tolerated. Their excessive religious observance, their strict group intensity, their self-denial and strict code of living, reminiscent of some of the wayward Puritan sects of the previous century, even their lowering themselves to undertake good works in the prisons and the workhouses. The workhouses are where people who faced dire poverty went when there was no other hope and they might at least get a meal, but they trade their whole life for labor. Lowering themselves to good works in the prisons and the workhouses was not beyond the pale. But it seems that when they took up the advocacy of a man accused of sexual crimes, they crossed the boundary between bizarre but tolerable to reprehensible. This is talking about a court case. When they are doing prison ministry, they find among the folks in the prison, the one who is being treated the worst is there for sexual crimes, which means he's gay. There's a young lawyer in this group of Methodists, and he and Wesley take up this charge, and they are advocating to the prison when folks are being mistreated. They're taking food, and they're singing songs, and they're telling prisoners that they are worthy, beautiful, valuable humans. They're the worst. But when they take up this man's cause, they go to court with him, and they end it. He is not sentenced to death. They do not win the trial, but he is not sentenced to death, which would have been the natural projection. And then he's fined, and you can only get out of your terrible prison space unless you pay the fine. And Gab and I looked up the fine, and it would be like, I think it was like $40,000 or $50,000, £40,000 or £50,000 today's money. The Methodists raised the money to liberate this man from prison. This is the first time the word Methodist is used. It is what the heart of our faith is about. We are well within the tradition, no matter what anyone might say. May we have the courage to stay the course, to dig our roots deep, and to face those bold accusations with courage and grace and a little bit of whimsy. May it be so. Amen.